So without further ado, I want to bring up a very special person, our marketing manager at Men Having Babies and 3-time surrogate, Shelly Marsh. She's going to moderate our panel for us. Shelly?
Hello, everyone. Thank you guys all so much for coming. This is my favorite part of the conference, not because I'm the one that gets to do it, but because this gives you an idea of what a surrogacy journey could look like. You're going to meet dads, you're going to meet surrogates, you're going to see babies, hear about families. So I would like to start by introducing you to our panelists. We have an extra chair, so I could even sit. You want to scoot over one, and I'll sit in the middle? Oh, actually, your hands are full. No, we'll stay here. We'll stay here. So we'll just sit in the middle here with everybody, and we'll have them all introduce themselves. We have 3 dads, 3 babies, 2 surrogates. We have a party going on over here. So we will start with Scott. Scott, if you could just give us a brief introduction of who you are, who this cutie in your lap is, and how you got here.
Sure. Name is Scott Malone. I was sitting in your same seat probably about 3 or 4 years ago as a single dad or single person who really wanted to become a dad. Always knew that I wanted to, and by the grace of God and everything else, had Audrey exactly 1 year ago on Thanksgiving. Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah, it was there. And more than happy to answer any questions that you guys might have with regards to the process. But it all started here for me.
Thank you, and we will go to Jeremy next, who is here with little Tallulah.
So my name is Jeremy. This is Tallulah. She will be 1 on December 19th. My partner David could not be here today. We were here 3 years ago at the conference, and it's information overload, but it's a great starting point, and here we are today, and we are gearing up for number 2, a transfer in 10 days. So, yeah.
Wonderful. We will go with Aretha next, who is one of our surrogates on the panel today.
Hi, everyone. My name is Aretha Cagno. I am a surrogate. I became a surrogate because I lost my sister to lupus. I was supposed to carry all of her children, but after losing her and having all of my children, I thought I can still be a surrogate for individuals who wanted to be fathers and or mothers. It doesn't only have to be for my family. So here I am, and here's Amanda. Her father's in the audience now.
And the next surrogate we have on the panel is Miss Kendra.
Hi, I'm Kendra. I am from suburbs of Chicago, so it was a bit of a journey to get here, and it was amazing. I carried twins. They turned 8 months old on Wednesday, and they and their dads live in Amsterdam, so I don't get to see them in person as much, but I get to wake up to pictures and videos and messages, and it's absolutely amazing. They're so sweet. Yeah.
Great. And our third daddy on the panel is David, and he has little Harlan with him.
Hi, my name is David Latt. I'm here with my husband, Zach, over there, who will spirit away little Harlan if he gets a little rowdy. We also were here 3 years ago and started our journey shortly thereafter, and Harlan turned 1 last month.
So now that we know who everyone is, a little more about me and why I'm the one that gets to facilitate this wonderful panel. I am a 3-time surrogate mother. I did 3 surrogacies for same-sex male couples, both domestic and international. My first couple is in Oslo, Norway, and I carried twins for them in 2013. And then I went on to help a second couple who's also a same-sex couple from Los Angeles and gave them a little boy in 2015 and a little girl at the beginning of this year. So surrogacy, IVF, gay dads, it's my whole life. Now I have 5 baby daddies, 6 kids. My circle just keeps growing, and for the next 9 months, no, I am not available. I have officially retired, but now I don't get to just help one couple, I get to help all of you. So our passion at Men Having Babies is real. We want you to have this just as much as you want to have this. So we're gonna start talking with the dads and the surrogates about how they came to surrogacy. They were in your shoes once, so it's interesting to hear their perspective. So we will start with Scott. If you could let us know how you decided surrogacy was the path for you and how you talked about that with your family.
Sure. I actually started looking down the adoption path, in all honesty. But I also wanted everything to be done from Connecticut and have every intention of staying up there. But there was a little interesting issues I had with regards to trying to adopt. Ran into a couple interesting legal things that I wasn't interested in, or questions that I didn't really enjoy answering. So through this program and a couple other friends who are dads now as well, surrogacy popped into my head. I had no idea what it was. I'm not going to try to pretend like I did. And then came here, and you're right, got overwhelmed with a ton of different questions and information. And it seemed like the right way to go. So gave that a shot. And with regards to talking to my family about it, that was interesting, to say the least. Not only being a single dad and knowing how this is going to be, but how this whole process would be, and who this other random woman who was going to help us would be, and how that all worked out. So just being simply open and honest with everybody and letting them ask any questions, at least from my immediate family, that was the most important thing for me to do, and keep them as involved as much as they wanted, which is another important thing that I'll just bring up is I was extremely, extremely, extremely cognizant of where I was doing surrogacy, and I wanted to be within a 2-hour drive. And I wanted it to be in a state that was really, had very good laws with regards to surrogacy, and Connecticut provided that. So I was able to attend every single doctor's appointment, every single transfer, failed transfer, any of those different things by driving. And that was actually really important, and having my family there if they wanted to come and help or attend one of the appointments as well.
This is what you guys have to look forward to. It's beautiful and it's lovely. I think Scott brings up some wonderful points. It's really good at this stage in the process to know what you want, to know how you want it to look, to just have a game plan for yourself. Do you want to be at every doctor's appointment? How much contact do you want with your surrogate? How close is the fertility clinic to you? Does that make a difference to your life? How close is your surrogate to you? So those are all things that it's good to have that as a guideline. You're not going to be able to check every box off your checklist, but you have to have your top 5, I think, things that really matter to you. And don't let go of those. You're going to find the surrogate where you want a surrogate. You're going to find the clinic that's going to work with you the best way that you deserve, that's close if you want them to be close. So just make sure that you're not sacrificing things that really matter to you just to speed up the process. So it would be great to hear from one of the surrogates. So Aretha, if you could just let us know, how did you decide that carrying a baby for somebody else was in your path? You said your sister initially, but when the unfortunate situation with your sister, and I'm so sorry to hear that, but it lit a spark in you to be a surrogate to help somebody else. So what was that process like with talking to your husband and your children? And how did you tell them that you wanted to be a surrogate?
Well, I brought it up to my husband. Honestly, he said to me, as long as he's not legally obligated to take care of it, he's fine with it. Listen, I have no problem giving my body to anyone to carry a child. We're human beings. Your sexuality, who you are, that does not bother me. We're here. Someone brought you here, so why can't I give you that gift to give you the child you want? I have 4 of my own, so why not give someone that gift? There was no second thought. And here she is.
I think it's also important to think, 'cause for you guys, maybe you've never met a surrogate in real life before. Like, we're real people. We're here because we feel that you deserve this. I can't imagine my life without my children. And people always ask odd questions like, how do you decide what couple you're going to pick? And from the moment I decided that surrogacy was in my path, I knew I wanted to help same-sex male couples, because you have all of the odds stacked against you. You can't physically carry a pregnancy. You've had all these roadblocks in your life this whole time, and I think the last thing that should be taken from you is the love of a child. So I knew from that moment that this is the couples that I wanted to help. So when the agency kept sending me husband and wife couples, I'm like, women are great and all, but let's do something that means a little bit more. And for me, it's been my whole life. So that's how I decided on surrogacy. And picking a couple was always fun. And for me, it was like online dating. And I'm sure everybody here can agree to that. It's like online dating. But for me, my husband was sitting next to me. So that's always fun. I'm like, ooh, babe, what do you think of these guys? And it's kind of fun because for me, it's not just, I'm not picking the couple. My husband needs to agree. My family needs to agree. The whole relationship needs to be honest and whole, and we need to all be connected because it's a huge commitment for not just me and you guys. It's a huge commitment for my family, your family, everybody. So we'll ask David and Harlan at the end, what was the matching process like when you were picking your surrogate? And just walk us through what that looked like from an intended parent's perspective.
So we were working with Worldwide Surrogacy, which I believe is here today. And we, at the time, were looking for a surrogate who was willing to carry twins. We were not limited on geography. We were willing to work with a surrogate pretty much anywhere in the country. Of course, we did want the state to have a good legal regime. And we were told that it would take about 6 to 9 months to find a surrogate, which was correct. Essentially, I believe that Worldwide has a process where they have the intended parents and their specifications, and they have the surrogates and what they're looking for in couples to work with or singles to work with. And yeah, Harlan, you're very excited about this. I think keeping those in mind, it essentially is it is sort of a first come, first serve, within the parameters provided. And so our parameters really were just relating to the double embryo transfer. We were not limited by geography. It did turn out to be pretty accurate. They connected us with they introduced us to a surrogate named Kelly, who was in Colorado Springs, and we Skyped with her to see if we were compatible. And we just knew almost immediately. She was just so warm and friendly, and her husband Matt was in the background, and he said hello. And I think it's really great if you have a surrogate who has a very supportive family or partner. And we just immediately felt a bond with him. It was just, we did not, pretty much after the Skype, we knew she's amazing. We want to work with her. And that was pretty much it. It was off to the races.
Wonderful. I think that's great. You have to trust your gut. What is that initial spark like? So have those hard conversations with yourself first, what you really want. So when you do get the chance to Skype with a surrogate, you can kind of feel the energy. I'm big on what feels right. So you have to trust your gut. And then from the get-go of the conversation, I think it's good to have those important questions. What do you want the relationship to look like? How much contact? Birthing arrangements, those are good things to talk about. And how involved do you want to be in the IVF process? Because there's injections, there's medication, there's ultrasounds, there's all these fun things that us as women get to do that you guys probably thought, like, I'm gay, I never have to talk about vaginas. Well, surprise, here we are. So you're gonna have to get used to hearing about your surrogate's menstrual cycle. You're gonna have to get used to sitting in a room and she has a blanket over her lap and they're doing a vaginal probe ultrasound. Yes, it sounds just as fun as the word. So you're just gonna have to break down the barriers, just talk about these things, because you wanna have the open communication before there's maybe an uncomfortable situation or a problem. So I would like to ask you, Jeremy, what was the IVF process like and the relationship with your surrogate like while she was pregnant and during the IVF process through pregnancy, I should say?
Yeah, so something that we knew from the beginning is we wanted a close relationship and a very open relationship with our surrogate. She's based in the Dallas area, and we worked with Dr. Goldstein at Fertility Specialists of Texas. So, it's a 30-minute drive for her, and about a 3-hour flight for us. So obviously, it's different than Scott's experience where he could be there for every appointment. A 2-hour drive is easier than a 3 to 4 hour flight. But we knew we wanted to be there for the important milestones. We went down for the transfer, and we would periodically try to time visits with our surrogate and her family around important checkups. And you were talking about knowing exactly what you want and not necessarily compromising on those things, but we were from the very beginning very open to all of the different possibilities of journey that you could have, and we didn't really have strong opinions about how exactly we were going to do it. But our surrogate did. And it was honestly, for us, this was our first time. We don't know as much as she did about this process and, being pregnant, going through this. And so, we always had a really open relationship with her where we could discuss any decisions that needed to be made. But it was nice that she, was really vocal with us and really, expressed what she thought was the best path forward. And, one of the most important things for us was just really just developing that sense of trust with her. And we, trusted her from the beginning. And, at the end of the day, she had 3 of her own children before she carried Tallulah. So, we knew that she knew what she was doing. Yeah.
I think he makes another great point that you have to have trust. This is a huge journey that you're giving so much control up. You don't get to actually feel the child moving in your stomach. You don't get to control a lot of this process. So it's really good to have a support team around you that you can trust, that you can rely on if something goes wrong. Not every journey is successful the first time. There's failed transfers, there's miscarriages, there's lots of speed bumps and hurdles that you could face that make life a little bit harder when you didn't think that was the path for you. So it's really great to identify who's on your team. So who's in your circle? Who supports you? If there's a financial hurdle that maybe you didn't prepare for, how are you going to handle that? But then also understand that there's hurdles that come with being pregnant as well. If your surrogate's put on bed rest, who's going to support her emotionally, financially? Who's going to take the kids to school? So it's not just her family that supports her, but surrogates work as well. So employers are having to realize that we're pregnant as surrogates and the baby's not coming home with us, but it doesn't lessen the fact that a pregnancy is a huge deal for a woman's body as well. And there's things that you can't account for. You don't know if bed rest is going to happen or if there's going to be bleeding after a transfer that's going to take her out of her normal life. So identifying those support people, identifying how you're going to work through those situations, just to make sure that there's not any added stress to you in addition to the situation that might be happening. And I think it's also good when you're thinking about supportive people and how you're going to get through certain situations. You guys all had your coming out moment, right? Whether you were 12, whether you were 25, you had that moment where you got to tell the entire world who you are and this is who you are. And I hope you did it fearlessly because I think you're all fantastic people. I admire all of your journeys coming to this point. And as a surrogate, I think we also get our own coming out moment. So you get to the point where maybe you haven't told everybody or strangers don't know, but you get to the point where it's like, okay, there's a baby in that belly. Like you're allowed to ask, she's probably not fat, it's probably a baby. So you get people that come up here like, oh my gosh, when are you due? And then for me, humor is always the option. Like, oh no, I'm not keeping this one. I mean, it's true. Or if my husband's at work and they're like, oh, Shelly's pregnant again? And he's like, oh yeah, but it's not mine. That one's even better. So we get to have that moment where we say like, we're not keeping this baby has its own family. And then you get the, how could you give up a baby? So you get a lot of that pushback. And really, for a surrogate, you're not giving up the baby. You matched with a couple. You meet the couple. You get to know the couple through the whole process. So you're really connected to the couple. So I always said it was kind of, I felt guilty how easy it was saying like, here's your baby that we worked so hard for. I'm going to go take a nap now. But it's just so easy to give the baby back to you because that's what we worked so hard for. Like that's what the shots were for. That's what the swollen feet were for. That's what the cheeseburgers at 3 a.m. were for. It was for you to have this moment that we've had before that you've waited so long for. So not only do we get our coming out moment as, yes, this is a surrogate pregnancy, this is not our baby, but then they say, so who are the parents? So then we get our second coming out moment where we say, we're helping a same-sex couple. And while surrogacy is sometimes controversial on its own, adding that added step, I think that gives us a really good idea of kind of part of the journey you've had your whole life. Not even close to what you guys have had with your own coming out stories, but for us, that's a huge moment. So just know that that connects us on a different level as well because we're in this 100% with you. So I would like to ask the two ladies here, when you were pregnant, did you receive any maybe negative comments, or maybe not, like it wasn't received as well as all the happy people? And what were those comments, and how did you kind of push through that? Would you like to start, Kendra?
So for the most part, it was a lot of support. I actually have my friend Stephanie here, and she was a huge, huge support for me. She was absolutely amazing. But I got a ton of backlash from my sister, which surprised me. And I'm going to chalk it up to the fact that she was actually pregnant at the time, and it was her crazy hormones. But she had to do IVF for her twins. And it shocked me that she went through that struggle and then was like, why would you do that? Why would you take that risk? And I'm like, why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I want to help somebody else? You have said yourself that you had offered to be a surrogate for a family member. I don't have family members who need me to do that for them, but I've had gay friends. And my husband and I struggled and struggled and struggled to get pregnant with our second son, because my first is from a previous relationship. And he's since adopted our oldest, but we struggled and we gave up. And 2 weeks after we gave up, I got pregnant. Because that's how it goes, right? But I got to see his face after he held his baby and look at a baby that he never thought he'd have. And I wanted to do that again. I wanted to do that for guys because I saw it and I know how amazing that is. So, it was, when I got the chance to be a surrogate, there was no question in my mind that I wanted to match with a same-sex couple. So.
And Aretha, would you like to share with us any situations maybe that people that surprised you with their reaction, or situations that maybe weren't as positive as they should have been?
I always let it be known to everyone I came in contact with that I was a surrogate. I did that because when it came up to that day, giving the baby away, it would be easier. And it was a heck of a lot easier. There were people who were skeptical, negative. Why would you do that? They're gay. If they wanted a baby, wouldn't they be with a woman? Well, guess what? People are different. That's who they are. I don't question it. And honestly, I didn't pay any mind to it. Just if it doesn't apply, let it fly. That's how I honestly thought of it. And that's how I think of it. I don't pay attention to negativity. Pay attention to positivity.
I always think it's fun when you get to hear of surrogate stories from children. So we're going to have, like we said, the teen panel later, so it's these guys in 15 years. But it's also fun to hear from surrogates' children as well, because I think our children have a really fun and innocent, honest way of describing what we're doing. So my sister-in-law was pregnant at the same time as me for my second surrogacy, I think. Don't quote me on that. But she was due a week before me, so we were kind of progressing at the same rate. And when my children, who are 11 and 8 now, when they saw Auntie's big belly, and they're like, "Oh, Auntie, who are you giving your baby to?" So my oldest understands that, like, we got one sissy that came home, but my little one doesn't understand, like, me being pregnant and, like, bringing the baby home. So for me, she's like, "Oh, the storks don't exist. My mommy just gives babies to people." So it's fun when they start school, and it was 2 weeks before I was having twins, and they're like, "Oh, Stella, your mommy's pregnant." And they're like, "Yeah, but we're not keeping them. They have 2 daddies and no mommy." And so our children kind of get to change the world a little bit with the stories that we're being able to live with them. So just being honest with our kids as well helps, because not only are these babies going to change the world, but the surrogates' kids are going to change the world. And everything we're doing is just creating such a more positive, loving world all around. So I think that's also something to I don't know, it gives you a little bit of hope that what you're doing, you're not investing all of this time, all of this money, all of this energy into something that's not worth it, because obviously this is worth it. They're going to be best friends in no time. So I would like to ask another question, though. So now that these little guys are here, so all of you have little ones, what did the labor process look like in the birth? Were you in the room? Were you not in the room? So we'll start with you, Scott, and just tell us what Audrey's birthday looked like.
It was fine. I think, just to go back on 2 quick points of what she said, which actually led into the whole birthing plan part of it, was ensure that you have everything written out that's really transactional with regards to your surrogate beforehand. And then you can let that go, because you already know that's going to happen, and you can literally just hang out, talk to them, understand who they are as a person without any of the transactional aspects being done. So part of what we decided on during the birth plan, I was in a smaller hospital up in Connecticut and was fortunate enough that I was provided with my own room. The people up there, the administration was great. I had already met Krista's mom, her dad, her husband, her whole family. Like, Audrey ended up meeting all of them first, and we were in the room during it. The issue that we ran into is that Audrey was born 2 weeks early due to the fact that Krista's blood pressure was starting to go up. So when we were at the last doctor's appointment, they ended up inducing her just so there wouldn't be any further complications if we waited until the due date of December 2nd. So that rushing from New York, getting in the car, getting the dog, packing the dog, getting everybody ready, going to Connecticut, we had a 3-day wait. So I was sitting there up for about 3 days late. Krista wasn't ready to have the baby. They tried to induce her. So the 3rd day in, day before Thanksgiving, she came through, and Krista had her own 2 kids and had wonderful, beautiful, easy 10-minute in and out deliveries. Not this time. Yeah, all right, I have one now. So you see things you don't ever want to see, but it's unbelievably important, and it really does help. I've held legs up to have Audrey be born. I've had puke buckets, the whole 9 yards. There was a lot going on. It was still, once it did happen with the adrenaline, yeah, I know, it was amazing, right? Except your head was a little squished because she got stuck, which was another issue. So there's a lot of things and I plan on everything. You can't always plan that out, but I was very fortunate. Talked to the hospital first. They thought it was crazy, but I went up there before and did a run through, knew where the room was, knew where the doors were, knew where everybody was, knew every nurse, every name, every person. But it was great because then once she was born, it was really easy. So do your due diligence, walk through it first, talk to the administrator as well, because there's a lot of paperwork that you're clearly not going to be in the headset to have done at that point in time. And it's not like you see on TV.
Nothing's like you see on TV. Nothing. So don't watch that, what is it, The New Normal, and think like, oh, it's beautiful, it's wonderful, your surrogate's gonna move in and you're gonna have waffles on Saturdays. Like, it's not normal.
That being said, she did eat something right after.
So it's good that he says that, though. It's good to have what you want it to look like, but know that like spreadsheets and real life don't really go together. Like, life's not linear, life's crazy, life's messy, life's beautiful. So tour the hospital. Meet the social worker at the hospital. Meet the person that's going to provide the information for the birth certificate. Find out who the nurses are. Find out if you're going to have your own room, or if not, where's the closest hotel. I think a lot of hospitals now are becoming available for intended parents to stay there. Not all of them, but I've done this 3 times, and there's never been a moment where my dads didn't have a room for them. So let's hear one more version of this story as well. Jeremy, tell us what your birth story looked like and what Tallulah's birthday was like.
Yeah, so it was really important to our surrogate that she be able to do a water birth. So that, pretty much started us down a different journey than most people really feel comfortable going, which was Tallulah was born in a birthing center instead of a hospital. So she had previously given birth at, basically this midwife's house. She went out and actually found a midwife practice that was affiliated with a really good hospital right down the road. So, it was kind of a balance. What was important to our surrogate for the birth was going to happen, but also, we felt more comfortable that, if something happened or went wrong, you're only a minute away from a doctor instead of just a midwife. It was really important for us to be there for the birth, and we had a plan in place to be there. And then, we were going to fly down 2 weeks early so that we would just wait it out. And she came 2 weeks and 5 days early. So, it's like you were saying, it's great to put together a plan. It's also great to just kind of develop that trust and be on the same page about things generally, because it's not going to go according to plan. It never does. We got a text from our surrogate at 6:30 in the morning, booked a flight at an 8:30 a.m. flight out of LaGuardia, and by the time we got to the gate, she had already been born. So we were able to, FaceTime right then, and a couple hours later we were there. And, it wasn't what we had thought that we wanted, but now looking back, it doesn't matter. We don't feel like we missed anything. It's just, that's the way it happened, and we're, happy.
Yes, nothing really goes as planned. My first couple, I said, was from Norway. I remember at 34 weeks, the maternal and fetal medicine doctor says, Shelley, you're dilated to 4 centimeters. The dads need to come now. And so I'm frantic with my fat fingers trying to call on Skype to say, you need to come now. And they booked a flight from Norway, got there the next day in the evening. And we were on standby. They had put me on bed rest for 1 week until we get to 35 weeks. It was twins, and then we'll see how it goes. So I was on bed rest for a full week, and then we went back in. And your cervix is very dynamic. It can open, it can close. It does all this weird body stuff. And then nothing ever progressed. So I made it to 38 weeks. So the daddies flew an overnight flight from Norway for absolutely no reason. But had they not come, we probably would have had twins early. So it's good to just know that we're going to throw frisbees and darts and everything at you just to see if you're on your toes, because that's what parenting is anyway. So we might as well start before the baby's here. So it's just good to have plan in place, what you think it should look like, and then you'll have a bag packed and you'll forget it at home, and you'll go to the hospital and you'll realize you don't need a coming home outfit and you don't need diapers at the hospital. Like, they give you all of that. You'll be fine. So for surrogates, were any of your husbands in the room? And who else was in the room? What did the full picture look like?
Okay, so my dad's being international. They actually came in at 34 weeks because I was carrying twins. And at 35 and a half weeks, I woke up at 2:30 in the morning to go to the bathroom and had a gush, and I'm like, what is that? My water broke. Surprise! So we get ready. I wake my husband up. We head to the hospital, confirm that my water broke, and I call up the dads, and it's about 3:30, and I'm like, hey guys, my water broke. And they're just like, oh, okay, well, how are you doing? And I'm like, fine. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, we'll head over. I don't think they were awake at all. So they show up about an hour later, and they're like, we couldn't even really compute what you said. Like, we put the garbage out. I don't know. So they gave me Pitocin, because I wasn't contracting. I had just had my water break, but they gave me Pitocin to kind of start, and they double-checked position of the babies to make sure we could still do a vaginal birth, and babies were good. And then it started getting painful, and they gave me the epidural, because that was my one requirement. I'm like, if I'm doing this, I'm doing it with drugs, because I'm not doing that otherwise. So they got my epidural, and about 30 minutes after my epidural is placed, my OB comes in. He's like, all right, we're ready to go, but here's the problem. She's considered preterm by 3 days, which means the dads couldn't go in the room with me. So my husband was in the room, and a whole lot of people that I didn't even really pay attention to, because at that point I'm just like, I just want to take a nap. I feel great. But we got the boy out, and the room cleared out quite a bit because half the people in there were, his team, and the other half were her team. And then I got to lay there for an hour pushing because the girl kept fighting it. Like, I watched on the monitor, and every time my doctor brushed her with his fingers, she'd back up. And I'm just like, oh, you thing. I'm so glad you're going home to your daddies. So then, surprise, surprise, after fighting with her, the umbilical cord came out the birth canal, which means it's a C-section. So I did both ways. So, and they're like, they got her out, and they're like, do you want to look at her? And I'm like, fine. And they showed her to me. Oh my God, she was beautiful. And I'm just like, you are so lucky, you're cute. So, but they whisked her off, and the dads were with them. And a couple hours after that, when they took me up, they took me into the room, and just to see the dads with the babies, and I was disappointed that they weren't in the room, but they were like, really, honestly, we didn't want to see that. So we're really kind of glad that worked out that way. And I'm like, I don't think it's pretty either, so you probably lucked out with that.
And I was the opposite. I had to have a C-section with the twins as well. But with twins, the fun thing is like, there's this tray next to you in the OR. So with twins, there's 2 doctors, there's 2 nursing teams, there's 2 everything, but there's only 1 of me. I don't know how that's fair. But when they go to do the epidural, or the C-section, the epidural's in, I was laying flat on the table, and my husband's like, babe, I just looked over the sheet, and all of your intestines are on this little table next to your body. And I was like, that's so cool, take a picture.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, my husband kept trying to look, and the esthetician or the anesthesiologist kept pulling that top sheet up, and he just sit there and be like, and I'm like, why do you need to look at that? But just
No,
stop.
we need pictures.
No.
And he was like, I'm not looking at that again. I'm like, just hold the camera up above the curtain to snap one. Give me the camera. No, I couldn't. So, if you want to be part of the birthing process, just make sure that you're not like a faint risk, or like, we don't need you knocking into anything. So just know your limitations. But it's a beautiful process. It's bloody and it's gross, and it's just, nothing goes as planned. Like, she had a double whammy, C-section and a vaginal birth. I would never do that, so you're much more of a woman than me, because I will never do that.
I was just happy I only had stitches in one spot. So, because otherwise I would have been like,
Add a few more.
right.
So I think at the end of the day, I just really hope that you understand that all of these journeys are completely different. Everybody's story is different. Everybody's background is different. All of these beautiful babies are different. And it's a possibility for you. So use today as a really good resource to meet the agencies, meet the clinics, talk to everybody. Find out who meshes with your personality, who's close to you, who's not close to you, and what you want that picture to look like. Come and talk to these guys and these surrogates and figure out how they decided. What was their main criteria for picking a surrogate? What was their main criteria for picking an egg donor? How did they screen their agency? How did they screen the clinic? How did they decide on single embryo transfers versus double? I am a strong believer in single embryos because I lived twins, and I can tell you that that was probably a lot more financially investment for the guys, but also there's just so much riding on twins that you can't control. So your goal is to have one perfectly healthy baby. So do the best you can to make that a possibility, and know that all of us here at Men Having Babies are here to support you. We have 100% behind your back, your biggest cheerleaders. So don't sacrifice what feels right to make the process move a little bit quicker. Just trust your gut. Trust what you know you want out of this, because at the end of the day, starting here, this is the start of the birth story of your children. So let's make that as beautiful as we can. Let's make that as wholesome as we can. Let us know if there's anything we can do. So we have about 5 minutes now. If any of you have any questions at all, let us know. Otherwise, I would like to thank my panelists for being here. We can do questions at the end as well if you want to ask a little more private questions, but thank you for letting us share our stories. One day I'm going to have all of you on this panel, so Men Having Babies, New York, in 2025. Your teens will be on the panel. It'll be fine. Or not 2025, but these ones will be there. So we'll be here forever to support you. Let us know how we can, and thank you so much for being here and starting this journey with us.